it's your fault for not picking up the phone. Hello, welcome to In the Armchair. Today is the first in a series that I've titled Korean Sundays. As the name suggests, I'm going to be dropping a review on a Korean movie every single Sunday. I love Korean cinema and I thought, why not dedicate a day specifically to talk about their films? We're going to kick this off with a Netflix produced film called The Call. The film is directed by Chang Hong-lee and it's about two girls that are living in two different time zones. So you've got Young-Sook, who lives in 1990, and you've got Seo-Yeon, who lives in 2020. So you've got a 20 years time gap between the two, but they're living in parallel and they're connected by a phone call. So it's an interesting concept. The girl who lives in 2020 gets a phone call. She starts speaking to someone and doesn't quite make sense. She keeps thinking that she's calling the wrong number until she establishes that this girl is somehow from 1990. Imagine if that really happened. Crazy, right? So essentially they're living in a parallel timeline connected through this phone. So this film has got sci-fi elements to it, but broadly speaking I would say it's a thriller with a couple of elements of horror also. And so the phone is connecting them 20 years apart. It doesn't go into any explanation as to how this actually works. It's one of those things you're just going to have to go along with. I didn't have an issue at all. So with there being a 20-year gap between the two, it's interesting to hear how the girl in the 1990s is so shocked about the technology we've got today. She's like, you've got a phone that is basically a computer? What about music? You've got music on your phone? Thousands of songs. It's crazy. Obviously today we just take these things for granted, but if you think about how it was back in the 90s, how far we've come, and you're probably watching this review on your phone, it's mad. But I like those little exchanges and gems within the film. But you can imagine with you being able to talk to somebody in the past, you might want them to change a few things, but you also have to take into consideration the person in the past has got the power over your future. And so that element alone is very compelling to me. When you first meet the women within the past and the present, they've equally got elements where you really feel sorry for them. And so they kind of draw close to each other because they realize one can help out the other. But then, as you can imagine, things start to change. And this film reminds you never to take somebody at their first impression. It's quite a deep story. It takes you through a wide range of emotions: pain, sacrifice, regret, sadness, and of course with it having a time travel element to it, you know the butterfly effect is going to come into play. And I loved how when something was changed in the past, the visuals of how it would change in the future were beautiful. This was a visually very impressive movie. And the two female leads in the film both give very good performances. When you start to think about it too deeply, like any other time travel movie, you can find things that you start questioning. How did this happen? This doesn't make any sense. But for the most part, this film is very cohesive. And unless you want to nitpick at things, the story actually flows very well. It's dark, enjoyable, and intense. The first half of the movie, where they're setting up the characters, giving you a bit of context, is a bit slow. It takes a little while to get going. I kept asking myself, okay, come on, pick up the pace. But then once it gets towards the second half, it really does pick up the pace significantly and turn into an intense thriller with a few elements of horror. There's a couple of nods to some classic horror scenes. And also with it being Korean, you're gonna get a certain level of violence. I said it in my #alive review. Koreans shoot violence beautifully, and this was no exception. And the film can allow you to be reflective in many ways. It makes you look at how people change once they've got something that they want from you. Unfortunately, I can't say much more about it without going into spoiler territory. But what I would say, there are quite a few twists, and make sure you stay right until the end credits. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the plot, I enjoyed the acting, I enjoyed the action scenes. It had me on the edge of my seat at certain points. And for the most part, it was very believable. You could see how this would actually play out in real life, and I appreciated that. I'm going to give this film 4 stars. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch some other videos.